Hello, dear friends. Every crisis is an opportunity, and in this case, it's the disclosure of classified information. Opinion piece. The iceberg top. There are more UFO sightings that are published. They are beyond the reach of human technology. We are on the doorstep of a major ET revelation. Myanmar seizes George Soros bank accounts. A railway artery will connect Mexico, US and Canada. Russia doesn't rule out being disconnected from SWIFT banking system. Artificial brainwaves to treat brain strokes. SETI scientists claim Mars is teeming with extraterrestrial life. If you seek the whole truth, you will have to pay a high price, but then you will be set free. Let's start. The United States has secret evidence of far more UFO sightings that have been made public, says former intelligence chief John Ratcliffe, who added that the government has evidence that UFOs are extraterrestrial craft. We are already on the verge of what is known as the Great UFO Revelation. The tip of the iceberg is an analogy to indicate something that remains hidden from view, and we can only see a small fraction of the reality. Next June is the 180-day deadline for the Pentagon and the spy agencies to disclose all information about UFOs. Before leaving the White House, President Trump signed a government aid and funding bill that included the release of all classified UFO information. In December, the government was given a 180-day deadline to declassify the information collected, meaning the report should be available on June 1st. The report was part of a $2.3 billion aid bill that Trump signed in December. The bill contained the Senate Intelligence Committee's Intelligence Authorization Act, which had a committee comments section addressing unidentified aerial phenomena. John Ratcliffe, who is a former director of national intelligence, revealed in an interview with Fox News that the US has evidence of identified flying objects performing maneuvers that would be impossible with known technology and are therefore hard to explain. The former director of national intelligence has raised expectation around the government disclassification of UFO reports, claiming that there are many more sightings that have been made public. Former intelligence chief said he saw images of the UFOs making movements that are beyond the reach of human technology. There are many more sightings that have been made public, Ratcliffe said in a dialogue with journalist Maria Bartiromo. Some of them have been declassified, and when we talk about sightings, we are talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots, or that have been captured by satellite imagery, that frankly perform actions that are difficult to explain, movements that are difficult to replicate for those of us without the technology, or that travel at speeds that exceeds the sound of barrier without a sonic boom. The report produced by the Pentagon and intelligence agencies seeks to identify, among other things, the threats posed by unidentified aerial phenomena and whether they can be attributed to foreign adversary. We are always looking for a plausible explanation. If weather can cause visual disturbances, sometimes we wonder if our adversaries have technologies that go a little further than we think or realize, Ratcliffe said of the issue. But there are cases where we don't have good explanations for some of the things we've seen. A setting that there have been sightings all over the world, Radcliffe insisted that reports of identified aerial phenomena already in the public eye are only part of the bigger picture. When we talk about sightings, the other thing I will tell you is that it's not just one pilot or just one satellite or some collection of information, Radcliffe says. We tend to have a number of sensors that detect these things, and some of them are unexplained phenomena, and there is actually a lot more that has been made public, he insisted. He said military officials are always looking for a plausible explanation, but there are many cases where this is simply not possible. But there are cases where we don't have good explanations for some of the things we've seen. The report is expected to be presented in unclassified form, but may include a classified annex, adding further intrigue to the situation. In 2020, the Navy declassified several videos purporting to show some of these UFO incidents. One of the videos was filmed in November 2004, while the other two originated in January 2015 and were notable for the shocked commentary of two Navy F/A-18 Super Hornet pilots. In 2020, former CIA Director John Brennan also spoke about UFO sightings, implying that some might consider the unusual activity constitutes a different life form. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense announced the creation of an Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force on August 4th. Mars. SETI scientists claim Mars is teeming with extraterrestrial life. In an article published in the scientific journal Nature Astronomy, Dr. Natalie Cabral, director of Carl Sagan Research Center at the SETI Institute, challenges assumptions about the possibility of modern life of Mars by the scientific community. As the Perseverance rover is traveling in search of signs of extraterrestrial life in the 3.7 billion year old G0 crater. Dr. Carroll asserts that not only could life be present on Mars today, but it could also be much more widespread and accessible than previously believed. Deployment of Ingenuity helicopter begins on Mars. NASA unveiled the first image on Mars of its Ingenuity helicopter carried by the Perseverance rover, which dropped its canopy, beginning the process of releasing the device, which will be the first to fly on Mars. A sustainable city is designed inside a Mars mountain that would be the capital of a colony of 1 million inhabitants. A real city could be built on Mars as early as this century, said the founder of the international architecture firm Abibu, Alfredo Muñoz, when presented the project of the city. NUA is the capital of 5 cities that we envision there will be on Mars. Basically, the total population is 1 million people among the 5 cities, says Muñoz, who believes that construction of the colony could begin in 2054 and be completed by 2100. According to the plan developed by the study and the international team of scientists Sonnet Network, the settlement called Nuwa would be located inside the cliff of a mountain of the geological formation called Tempe Mensa in the northern hemisphere of the red planet. Rocks would protect the interior of the colony from space radiation and Mars low atmospheric pressure, while special windows in the cliff would provide indirect sunlight. Under such conditions, the city could grow to several 100,000 inhabitants, the architect estimates. Are we ready? James Gilliland of SETI opines that the masses are not ready for the truth. It can be handled. For some, it would create mass hysteria, a complete mental breakdown. What if almost everything you were told was a lie and you realized that your entire foundation knowledge base was socially engineered? Many would become despondent, apathetic, suffer extreme depression. Some would even take their own lives. Others would attack the liars, those who have betrayed their trust, and there would be a collapse of civilization, and most would be in shock. Some people feel a little sad to realize that they are not yet ready for absolute truth, that they still need some lies to find rest in, some myths and idealizations to take refuge in, some justifications so they don't have to fight themselves. What kind of truth are you looking for? Partial truth, relative truth, statistical truth, complete truth? If you are looking for the whole truth, you will have to pay a high price, but it is worth it. The price is that you will not be able to be at peace at first, but then you will be free once you digest the information. White hats. The white hats have played a brilliant game, and what has been unfolding is like a red-hot edge of your sit spy thriller, a mystery novel. Mix in Hollywood actors, masks, voice modulators, and special effects, sound stages, green screens, and space-age technology, and you have a very compelling show designed to gradually educate the millions who don't know what the slime has been deceiving them. The level of misinformation is sky high. Use discernment for every bit of information, especially when the source will benefit financially from receiving it. There is a staggering amount of information freely available from countless sources online. Burma. Myanmar's military seizes George Soros bank accounts and issues arrest warrants. The military government that was established in Myanmar following allegations of election fraud earlier this year seized the bank account of several open society foundations owned and operated by billionaire George Soros. Along with the seizure, arrest warrants were issued for 11 members of the organizations believed to have given financial support to the civil disobedience movement against the military junta. The new Myanmar government says it plans to take legal action against open society foundations for violating restrictions on the activities of such organizations. Myanmar also recently banned the use of Facebook and Twitter in the country after it was revealed that the big tech platforms were using hidden algorithms to promote anti-military protests after the military takeover. Financial storm. Financial red alert. The government has created a perfect storm for financial collapse, according to Mike Adams. Earlier this year, Adams publicly predicted that the dollar would lose 20% of its purchasing power this year. That prediction has already come true, with prices soaring on everything from food and fuel to housing. The dollar has already lost more than 20% of its purchasing power this year, and we are not even through the first quarter. By the time the money printing madness produces another few $1 trillion in bailout money, the dollar's real purchasing power could lose 30% to 40% of its value before the end of the year. Shortages are getting worse by the day, with shortages of timber, copper, food scraps, fuel, and even microchips. Automakers are shutting down their factory lines because they can't get the needed microchips, and with the regime paying people hundreds of billions of dollars to stay home and avoid working. Why would anyone want a low-paying labor job anyway? A perfect storm situation has now been created where labor shortages, skyrocketing price, inflation and collapsing supply lines will lead to a catastrophic collapse. Call it the debt bomb or the dollar collapse or whatever you wish, but it is now inescapable. Russia doesn't exclude its disconnection from the SWIFT banking system. Russia is alert to the possibility of being disconnected from the SWIFT payment system. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, citing the West's sanctions policy, in quotes, "We cannot exclude any of the possible threats. It is being seen that the aspiration of our opponents to impose sanctions continues to increase. These actions have an unfounded and unforeseen character, whereupon the situation forces us to be vigilant," Peskov commented. Russia wants to move away from the dollar and Western payment systems. Sergei Lavrov gave an interview to Chinese media in which he expressed his concern about Washington's increasing pressure on sovereign economies. In particular, he insisted on the need to look for alternatives of the dollar and to seek measures against unilateralism. Lavrov added that in parallel it is necessary to strengthen economic independence in general. Life forces us to build our economy and social development strategy in such a way that we do not depend on such whims, he added. Europe. Wild berries, the Russian Amazon that promises unprecedented products, lands in Spain. In recent years, numerous collection points of an important local internet sales company have sprung up on Russian streets. Wild berries considered the Russian Amazon. Now this company arrives in Spain and promises exclusive novelties. A Valencian chef registers a rice cooked with 24-karat gold and oysters. Valencian chef Rubén Fenolar has just registered the recipe of his new culinary creation, in which he introduces 24-karat gold in black rice with curly oysters, and which has already aroused the interest of restaurants all over the world. Germany extends restrictions until April 18. A step backwards into the de-escalation in Germany that extends restrictions until April 18, according to the agreement reached after the coordination meeting between the German government and the 16-lander. Turkish lira falls 15% after central bank governor sacked. The Turkish lira, sacked means fired. The Turkish lira fell 15% to near a record low on Monday after President Tayyip Erdogan's surprise dismissal of a hardline central bank governor sparked fears of a reversal of recent interest rate hikes. Mr. Akbal, appointed in November, have been raising interest rates to combat an inflation rate above 15%. US. A railroad artery will connect Mexico, the United States and Canada. In the midst of the commercial upturn in North America, Canadian Pacific Railway announced the purchase of Kansas City Southern to create the first railroad network that will connect Mexico, the US and Canada. The railroad that will link the three countries will be called Canadian Pacific Kansas City and aims to boost trade development between the three nations. Spanish language advertising to keep migrants away. The White House secretary said yesterday that the US has been paying for ads to send a message to migrants that it's not the time to travel. The US government has been paying for ads. It's repeated. Hundreds of migrants released due to lack of space. An Axios reported or revealed Sunday, March 21st, that Border Patrol agents in the Rio Grande Valley have no choice but to release people almost immediately after apprehension, because there is no space to hold people. Guatemala's airport closed due to ash from Pacaya volcano. Guatemalan authorities on Tuesday suspended operations at La Aurora Airport in the south of the capital and the only international airport in the country after the fall of ash due to the constant eruptive activity of the Pacaya volcano. China. US spy planes make their closest approach to Chinese territory. The US has increased its spy plane flights in the vicinity of Chinese territory, establishing a close approach to a distance never before recorded near the coast of China. The airplane set a new record of 25.33 nautical miles, the shortest distance US reconnaissance aircraft have ever reached from China shores, based on public data so far. In addition, there was also a P-8A and a EP-3E spotted over the South China Sea on March 22nd, says a report by the SCSPE Researcher Network. European Union sanctions China for first time since Tiananmen. Beijing retaliates. The European Union on Monday placed 4 Chinese officials and 1 Chinese entity on its list of restrictions for serious human rights violations against the Uyghur minority, in its first sanctions on Beijing since 1989, Tiananmen Square massacre. Israel donates its invention that extracts water from the air for children in Colombia. The State of Israel has donated 2 devices that extract drinking water from the air to schools in rural areas of Colombia. The devices were installed in La Guajira, a state in northeastern Colombia that has been suffering from a disastrous water crisis for years. Artificial brainwaves to treat strokes. BrainQ, an Israeli startup in the field of medical technology, has developed an innovative new therapeutic platform to treat stroke victims. The new treatment uses artificial brainwaves via a wearable device that, according to clinical trials, caused 77% of subjects to recover faster from strokes compared to those who didn't use the treatment. The artificial brainwaves are administered using electromagnetic radiation, which stimulates the nervous system to regrow and heal. By using this method, BrainQ was able to mimic neural network synchronization processes. Africa. Niger government raises death toll in Sunday's massacre to 137. The government of Niger raised to 137 the death toll in Sunday's massacre in the Tahoe region, bordering Mali, and also reported a large number of wounded. The perpetrators of the massacre, which took place simultaneously in 3 villages near central Niger, where the attackers arrived on motorcycles and fired at point-blank range at their inhabitants are not yet known. Hunters kill world's last white giraffes. A female white giraffe, believed to be the last of the species in the world, was killed by poachers, Kenyan conservationists said. Locals found the skeletons of the mother and calf after a long search, and it's believed that they have been dead for at least 4 months. Ishak Bini Hirola, manager of the Kenyan reserve, said in a statement. Mystery of sudden exodus in ancient Egypt solved. A team of archaeologists conducted excavation in ancient Berenice, where they have found new evidence that this prosperous and fortified city may have been abandoned by its inhabitants due to a sudden climate change. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.